Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast. Today, we're looking at Week 14 of the NFL season. Katie Mox here, joined by Will Brinson and our Pick Show squad, RJ White and Alex Selelnick, aka Propstarz, the finest from Sportsline.com. This episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And if you like winning picks, make sure you sign up at Sportsline.com and use the promo code PICK to get your first month for just $1. The last episode on the feed, Brady Quinn and Lee J. Doozable discussed the glut of quarterback injuries. Oh, yeah, the glut of quarterback injuries and what a CFP-style playoff would look like in the NFL. Check it out on our YouTube channel or anywhere that you get your podcasts. Fellas, Week 13 was great for me. Personal reasons, betting reasons. 49ers, obviously, big win there. And Mox, don't let her heat up. 6-1. We're back over 500, baby. It's been a battle to get here. I'm pretty stoked.
It's crazy how it makes sense, but you forget like a heater of a week can flip your whole season around.
Yeah.
You know, like you're like several games under 500 grinding, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, 6-1. And the only one you lost was the George Kittle over receptions that you thought was going to hit. He would have hit his regular over on receptions, I think, right?
And that was at like minus 166 or something. And he almost had 5, but he dropped one in the first. Brinson went 3-3, broke even. RJ had his first losing week in a very long time, but he's still obviously well over 500. And Propstarz went 3-1 as well. So pretty good week across the board for everybody.
Yeah, nice job, everybody. Way to go. I had something else I was going to follow up on, but I don't know what the hell it was. So,
all right, RJ. Before we move on, any takeaways from you from Week 13?
Yeah, it was an interesting week. Some weird stuff happened. I thought that there was going to be some bounce back from the underdogs because the week before it was a huge week for favorites, and so the lines inflated a bit. And then that Sunday it did not happen. Just favorites rolled again for the most part, and really needed the Jaguars on my teaser to stay 3-3 on Monday night, and that didn't happen. I don't know where the Jacksonville defense went for that game, but so I was kind of disappointing. But yeah, it was an interesting week. We'll see now if the lines are again overinflated and the dogs roll again. So it feels like either one of these weeks the dogs are going to roll, or just these bad teams are going to give up because they're just going to look at the draft. So we'll see what moves first here.
Actually, I knew what I was going to say. One, we're all sort of clustered there. I think I'm in. What was I? Can you toss the? Well, no, it's going now. But like I think the best betting record. Like I think I'm last at like 46 something percent, and then RJ's in first place at like 52%. But there's not enough games where you can't like make it up and actually flip it pretty good. And then I was going to point out that screw Russell Wilson throwing that interception late. Like, go win the freaking game, dude. And I mean, like you had the Texans, RJ had the Broncos, I had the Broncos, and then the Titans. You missed the extra point. Are you effing kidding me? You score a touchdown to tie it up and miss the extra point because your freaking holder has gotten they fired their special teams coach because the holder got injured, and as a result ended up that really grinds.
That's football, baby. Sometimes you're on the right side, and sometimes
but you're on the right side of both of those. Oh my God, get bent, dude! I wonder why you were cackling. I knew the Texans. Yeah, I didn't realize you were on the Colts. So like that flips everything, though. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, I'm having a great week. You're like, don't.
Yeah, no.
Anyway.
Great. Look, I went, y'all remember I went 0-6 one week, and then I took the next week off. So that 0-6 stuck with me for 2 weeks long. So don't mind me for gloating a little bit. I will say Propstarz lost a bet to me. He should be wearing a 49ers jersey. He says it's on the way. I thought wearing it for the entire episode.
I thought I had quite a bit of 49ers regalia here, Katie. I was misinformed. I have some stuff in route right now on our Monday podcast. I will be adorned in plenty of 49ers gear.
All right. Well, that
is no 49ers gear on Monday. You got to get Brocktober tattooed across your no regrets Brocktober tattoo.
Although Brocktober wasn't that good.
No, Brocktober was not great.
Yeah, not good for him. All right, guys, let's move on to Week 14 here. Please note that the lines and the odds are subject to change all the way up until kickoff. We're hitting these at about 2 p.m. on Thursday, so check with your book before tailing, but we will get right into it. First game that we are looking at is the Rams at the Ravens. Ravens laying 7.5. This total 40.5. Ravens coming off a bye, Brinson. Are they going to roll?
Yeah, I think that the Rams are a good team. You know how my affinity for the Rams. I really do. I think they're a good football team. Also, like kind of a little flustered. I thought this was 7. I thought it was 7. I swear I got 7 on Sportsline. Maybe I hadn't plugged it in yet. I was looking for 7.5. I'll still take the set. No, I think I got 7.5. I'll still take the 7.5. That's fine. Whatever. No, I got 7 on Sportsline. Can I take 7? Or do I have to go 7.5?
7.5 now in the market, basically everywhere. For the show.
I know. I hate when that happens to us. It's kind of, yeah. If you
yeah. I mean, look, I still don't necessarily know that it matters. Baltimore has a bye to get healthy. They have dominated in Lamar Jackson's tenure since taking over NFC teams. They don't see Lamar enough. The Rams haven't seen this offense, this Todd Monken offense. Mark Andrews missing is a problem. I know Jason Lockenford wrote up on Sportsline as well, and you could join Sportsline. $1 for your first month, sportsline.com/join. Use promo code PICK. JLC points out that this is when Lamar really gets his legs going. And we know Mark Andrews, he might start maybe rushing a little bit more than he has before. Like December, you just see, these games, they're fighting for the 1 seed. So like Lamar is maybe a little more likely to take off, use his legs to try to pick up first downs, to try and produce offense. And so, especially with no Mark Andrews, but the rest, everybody gets healthy. That defense is a problem. They send a lot of different blitzes, and if the Rams could get quick passes off underneath to Puka Nacua and then Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp's really been bad lately, then maybe the Rams can hang around. But I think the Ravens roll here, RJ, and we see Baltimore cover 7 or 7.5.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be the worst weather game probably of Sunday. And when you get those windy conditions and bad rain, I think that obviously is going to help the better running team. And that you talk about Lamar Jackson using his legs, he's probably going to do a lot more of that in that type of situation. I mean, if you look at how, I know you like to look at how teams do after the bye with your Andy Reid thing. The Baltimore hasn't covered the last 3 after the bye, but they dominated yardage each of those games. So I think they actually play well after the bye, and the score has just gone weird on them.
John Harbaugh, a Reed guy, of course, too.
Right. Rams defense, 14th in yards per play, solid across the board. Toughest test, though, since giving up 43 points in Dallas. I don't know that Baltimore's going to score 43 with these bad conditions. I do think they'll probably cover your number. Teasing it down to 1.5 is the clear move here, especially since there's another great teaser game on the board. So I tease Baltimore down to 1.5. I also am taking best bet Kyren Williams over 17.5 receiving yards. In these bad conditions, I expect Stafford to do more short throws, more dumping off to Williams in questionable weather, and I could see him blowing by this number pretty easily. I mean, since he came back from the IR, he had a 60-yard game and I think a 24-yard game, and so it seems pretty likely he's going to top this number.
And Prop, you got a Kyren Williams bet as well, right?
I do indeed, Brinson. Yeah, I'm going to actually fade Kyren Williams under 68.5 rushing yards. I just think this is 4 to 5 yards too high for Kyren. He's been a phenomenal player, pretty much out of nowhere here for the Rams. But this Baltimore defense is so balanced. They're almost as good as they are against the pass, with the best pass defense in the league. They rank top 10 in nearly every rushing metric. They've had the bye week as well. I think they're going to really hone in on shutting down Williams. They are extremely healthy. They had every single player on the roster, minus one, I believe. I think it was Rashad Bateman was the only player not to practice yesterday as well. So they are healthy. They're the healthiest team in football right now at the right time. So I think it's going to be a tough day for Kyren Williams as far as his rushing total is concerned. So I'm going to fade him here.
And I think you could also make the claim, too, that like that pass, the receiving yards over and the rushing yards under are correlated, along with Baltimore -7. Like it wouldn't if Baltimore -7 hits, I bet all of these bets hit. I mean, obviously the 1.5 teaser, and then there's 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think they easily can both come in.
All right. Oh my God. How do I get stuck talking about the Panthers?
Your Panthers.
Even worse though.
Keep pounding.
Start pounding. Anytime you want to start pounding, guys.
You feel like a pound today?
Yeah. If anyone care to pound. Of course, I say that, and then I'm immediately taking the Panthers 5.5 as a best bet. Look, here's what I wrote up on my picks post and then on sportsline.com. Panthers catching 5.5 on the road in New Orleans. The game total is 37.5. That's a low game total. It's actually a little bit higher. I don't mind the under there as well. I think you won't see a ton of scoring. The quarterback situation, though, would dictate my decision making on the over, the under. But I think the quarterback situation is what makes me like the Panthers getting the 5.5. If Derek Carr plays, and for the love of me, I can't figure out why he just won't take a week's rest. Like, I love that David Carr's out here suggesting Jalen Hurts needs to sit because he's too hurt to play and they need to put Marcus Mariota out there. How about you text your brother the same advice, bro? He's in concussion protocol and he's dealing with a shoulder injury. He has no business being out there for the Saints. Panthers, defense is good, not great, but I mean, they can get after the passer. And Derek Carr gets hurt every week. Let Jameis play 1 week. He's scared he's going to lose his job. If Derek Carr plays, it's going to be dump to Alvin Kamara, try to feed Chris Olave some. And then if Jameis Winston plays, the Panthers have the upside of creating a turnover, getting good field position, actually scoring points, or taking an interception to the house, because that's what Jameis likes to do. So the volatility at the quarterback position is what makes me like the Panthers here, catching 5.5 in a divisional game. And look, Carolina lost again last week, but they kept it close with Tampa. There needs to be an incentive here for this interim staff to make this team to try hard and to win some games, so you can possibly be involved with the next coaching hire, which is unlikely. But I think two bad teams. Panthers keep it within 3 points.
I would tend to agree, Brinson, and I also have a best bet on Chuba Hubbard. This is probably my favorite bet so far on the board. It's Chuba Hubbard to eclipse 12.5 rushing attempts. Chuba Hubbard is coming off of arguably the best game of his career last week, handled 25 of the 32 Panthers rushing attempts, which is just a massive share there. Ended up scoring 2 touchdowns, had triple-digit rushing yards. Now we're facing a Saints team that is depleted, who are a major run funnel. This isn't the same Saints defense that we've seen in recent years. That's been one of the more dominant run defenses in the NFL. Teams are choosing to run on the Saints often here. So I love this spot for Hubbard, who seems to be Chris Tabor and the new coaching staff's favorite running back. As far as Miles Sanders is concerned, he has been relegated to simply a third down specialist. And just to spell Hubbard, really hasn't been on the field much at all, playing less than 30% of the snaps in back-to-back weeks. I have this number at 15.5 as far as my personal projections are concerned. So we're getting a significant edge here. So I really like this Hubbard play over 12.5 rushing attempts.
I love that. All right, let's move on to Indianapolis Colts laying 1.5 at the Cincinnati Bengals. This total 43.5. I don't know if y'all remember last Thursday when I said that Jake Browning might not be as bad as we all thought, and that looked a little bit trappy. And then how about Jake Browning last week?
Full peacock mocks this week. I like it.
When the Niners win big, I'm insufferable, and everybody should just know that about me.
You've earned it, Katie. You've earned it.
I suffered a 3-game losing streak. I suffered 2 weeks of 0-6. Okay, just let me have this.
Truly. Oh yeah. I was like, this Niners team has been so tough to deal with over the last several years.
Yeah, we've had our adversity. 3 whole games that we only scored 17 points. All right, guys. So I'm looking at Jake Browning actually again in this one. I was looking at some of his stats, and I'm taking him over his rush yards. That's at 12.5 at -119. It's a small sample size. He's had 2 full games. He came in obviously in that Ravens game, but he's averaging about 23.7 rushing yards per game in those 3 ever since Joe Burrow went down. It's about 7.9 yards per attempt. When you look at the Colts, they're actually allowing this number, 13 plus rush yards to opposing quarterbacks in 61% of games this season. They actually give up the 4th most rushing yards to the position this season. So I like Browning to be a little bit shifty here. I'm taking him over on his rushing yard prop, but you, Brinson, like the Colts.
Yeah, I don't know how all of my picks ended up at the top of the rundown. How could that have happened? And by the way, I actually just went through and took a look. Chuba Hubbard, only $5,600 in DFS. Not a bad little. And it looks like he'll be pretty fair. Yeah, really under-owned, like under 10%, under 7%. So that's actually, I'm actually saying that out loud. So that way, when I don't play him, I can get mad at myself for mentioning it on this podcast. But I'm going to take the Colts here. Did you know how many sacks the Colts have in the last 3 weeks or last 4 weeks? 3 or 4 weeks. It's 21. It's a lot. They've been sacking. They've been getting after the quarterback. This Colts defense has been really aggressive. They've stepped up in a big way. They're playing great football. Gardner Minshew, Gardner Minshew, Jake Browning. relatively Jake Browning played well. I think he's
Better than you think.
I liked him at Washington. I think he comes back to earth a little bit. I think he got a Washington rivalry. They might have played in an Apple Cup, actually.
Yeah.
I think the Colts get enough done here, and I'm not sure if Jonathan Taylor's back. I don't know that necessarily matters. I think Zach Moss is going to go. Moss should have much better success. The Cincy defense looks really bad against Jacksonville, and I like the Colts to figure out a way to get this win and to move to 8-5 and to really establish themselves as a playoff team.
Yeah, speaking of Zach Moss, I have him to score a touchdown, just assuming he plays. If he doesn't, this bet will be null. But if he does play, I mean, this Cincy defense has given up a ton of touchdowns to teams. I believe 9 of the last 11 games, our running back has scored a touchdown. And that either Jonathan Taylor or Zach Moss has scored a touchdown for the Colts in 9 of 11 games. And it didn't happen last week against Tennessee. I think it's going to happen here. This total is going up. It's 43.5 now. It was 41 or 40.5 earlier. That tells you the weather's clearing up here. So Jake Browning will have a chance to throw it around to these weapons a little bit. Might be a little more scoring than initially expected. And I think Zach Moss is pretty clearly going to get in the end zone here if he plays.
Yeah, and I like Zach Moss as well for a lot of the reasons RJ mentioned, but I'm going with his rushing total, over 68.5 rushing yards. Sans Jonathan Taylor, Moss has an absolute stranglehold on all of the Colts' backfield touches, played 94% of the snaps last week. Without Jonathan Taylor, who's reportedly missing 3 to 5 weeks because of this thumb injury. I think it's highly unlikely that Jonathan Taylor ends up playing. And then against the Cincinnati run defense, which is bottom 5 in nearly every single defensive rushing metric, EPA allowed per rush, defensive run grade, run stop win rate. This has been a bad Bengals run defense. I think the Colts get back to a heavy concentrated run game planning. I think last week was honestly closer to Moss's floor when he handled 19 touches than his ceiling in a game where he could literally have 25 to 30 total touches in this game. So really like RJ's look here. Also like him to sail over his rushing yards. I like all of Zach Moss's props this week.
Yeah, he's gonna be like 40+% owned in DFS, but with good reason. He's like $5,900. The Titans were really bad. Were really good against the run. They were bad for like a little stretch there, but they're a good run defense. They're a pass funnel, and you saw that like Michael Pittman, 16 targets, right? Alec Pierce wide open down the field. This game could actually turn into a decent little shootout if things kind of, it's one of those shootouts where it's like suddenly Gardner Minshew and Jake Browning are just whipping the ball all over the place. There's such good receivers on both sides of the ball that it wouldn't be surprising. But I agree with you guys. I think Zach Moss gets a big load in terms of his carries this week. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Cleveland Browns. This line shifted massively. And Trevor Lawrence was out. I put it in as a best bet on Sportsline when, again, sportsline.com/join. Use promo code PICK for your first month for $1 when it was announced that CJ Beathard is also on the injury report. Walker Little. Yeah, CJ Beathard was on the Wednesday injury report. Walker Little is hurt as well. I think he got hurt on the play where he stepped on Trevor Lawrence's ankle. He was banged up in that game. Travis Etienne looks like he's dealing with some injuries. The defense for the Jaguars was a disaster against the Bengals and Jake Browning. Like RJ said, it fell off a cliff completely. Cleveland weather looks to be pretty nasty here. Oh. And the Browns, even with their backups all over the place on offense, have at least can run the ball well. Joe Flacco, I thought it was a really creative job by Kevin Stefanski early in the game last week for Cleveland. You get the little it was a play action wheel route to the opposite side for Jerome Ford, who was wide open. They know that this defense is gonna be able to limit, because Trevor Lawrence ain't playing this game. They're gonna be able to limit CJ Beathard and the Jacksonville offense. And they know if they score 14 to 17 points in this weather, you basically be forcing Beathard to drop back a ton and throw in bad weather against a really good defense. Denzel Ward coming back for the Browns. I think Cleveland kind of snuffs the Jaguars out here. Yeah, really disappointed Jaguars team coming off a tough home loss on Monday Night Football, tons of injuries, and you just don't have your quarterback. It's a tough spot for Jacksonville.
The weather might not be that bad. I think that early in the week we were projecting it could look pretty bad. Yesterday it seems like it's lightened up in that area of the country. So the Bengals game and this game seems like it's not going to be as bad as it will for some of the more northeastern teams. So you saw the total creep up in the Bengals game because of that. This one is starting to creep up. It's 31.5 now at FanDuel. It was 30.5 earlier in the day. I don't know how there's going to be much scoring in this game considering the quarterbacks involved. And it's interesting that I don't think the Browns have announced who's going to play quarterback. In bad weather, I would assume Dorian Thompson-Robinson would be a better look there because he's not going to give you much in the pass game anyway. He can run around with his mobility, pick up some first downs. If the weather's fine, which it looks like it's trending that way, you get Joe Flacco in there to throw all over this Jaguars defense that made Jake Browning look like Joe Burrow. So I think maybe they were looking at how the weather was going to be, and then they're going to decide who the quarterback is. If that is the case, very savvy move by the coaching staff there to determine their game plan based on how the weather outlook is. And since it is clearing up, I think it'll be Flacco. I think the Browns probably win. Don't have a lot of expectation for this Jaguars team with Lawrence out.
Yeah, and everybody else. All right, next up, Tampa Bay at the Falcons. Falcons laying 1.5. This total 40.5. RJ, you're going to lay the short number with Atlanta.
Yeah, the line came down. I think there's professional money came in on Tampa Bay at 2.5 to knock it down to 1.5. I'm a little bit against that. I thought the line should be 3 in the first place. I think it's because there's defensive injuries for Atlanta that we're looking at and monitoring, seeing what's going to happen. AJ Terrell dealing with the concussion being one of them, and the Buccaneers getting Levante David back at linebacker is a big thing for them. I think Atlanta's offense either way is going to have an easier time at home than they did last week against the Jets, where they averaged just 3.0 yards per play. And this Tampa defense still missing a bunch of guys on the back end, even with David back. Tampa Bay has had a more convincing one last week. Cracks in the armor of the run defense, though, which Atlanta wants to lean on here. Atlanta's defense quietly solid across the board. It's not just one guy doing it. Top 10 versus the pass and the run, second on third down, first in the red zone. I think it's going to take an explosive play from Mike Evans to reach the end zone here. And if they don't get it, I'm not sure they do. So I think Atlanta wins one of these classic Falcons home games, a 20 to 16 type of game, and wins by 3 or 4 points. So because it's come down just a little bit and we get that 2 in play, I like Atlanta minus 1.5 as the best bet. I think it should be 3.
Surprised by the total here at all? 40.5 is pretty high for these. I guess you can pass on Tampa Bay.
I think it's going to go up for sure.
Do you think it'll go up?
Yeah, I think take it now if you like it.
Okay.
All right. On that note, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, more of Week 14 plus the Pick Six Parlay. It's going to be a winner this week, folks. We promise, like we do every week. We'll see you in a sec.
On the next NFL Monday QB, with only a month left on the regular season calendar, the Week 14 slate is filled with divisional rivalries. Go under center on the only NFL show all about quarterbacks. Monday on CBS Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast. It's time now for the Pick Six Parlay, where we each select a game for a 4-leg money line parlay, but there are some rules. First, the person with the best record, the previous week gets to add their first leg, then it goes second, and so on. And the best overall record is a tiebreaker. By the end, we have to have at least one dog in there. So there does have to be one flyer, I guess, if you will. This Pick Six Parlay segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Okay, let's look at last week. We went.
You won 6-1.
Huh?
Oh, half and half on the parlay.
Yeah, half and half. The Dolphins. We had the Dolphins, Jags, Rams, Eagles. Dolphins and the Rams took care of business, but obviously the Trevor Lawrence injury kind of hurt us there, and we all know what happened with the Eagles and the 49ers. I think we all know what I'm doing here.
Before, just worth noting.
Yeah.
Harry did include the verb scuppered. Scuppered, which I believe is a British verb. I mean, it's an English verb, but it's from British origin. I think it means to scrap. Is that right, Harry? Close enough. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Scrap. It destroyed our plans. They were scuppered.
It scuppered our plan, pretty much.
Pretty much. Very impressed by it.
All right, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to pick the Niners, who are laying 10.5, but we will take them at minus 620.
Who could have seen that coming?
Biggest shock of the week there, Katie. I am up next year, guys. Are Monday night games eligible for this?
They are, because we're talking about them every week now.
Okay, so I will take Miami's money line against Tennessee.
Also a good one. I'm up next. I'm Ron Burgundy. Okay. Trying to plug this in and see. You know what? I'm going to go with the Ravens at minus 360, and I'll let RJ be the dog whisperer here.
That is fine by me. There's actually several dogs I think
That's
are
what I
live.
was hoping.
And I think we could actually make a parlay with all dogs if we wanted to, because I think there's going to be a decent number of dogs win. So my choices here come down to the Raiders at home plus 138, the Broncos in LA, which doesn't have a home field advantage anyway, at plus 126, then maybe the Bears at plus 144. So of those three teams, a little bit more confident in the Raiders. I think that line got way out of whack, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I'm going to throw them in there at plus 138 to win at home against Minnesota.
I like that. So that gives us a total of, so we have the 49ers minus 620, the Dolphins minus 800, the Ravens minus 360, and the Raiders plus 138. That gives us a plus 297 parlay, just on a hair under 3-1. I mean, look, we felt good about the Jaguars. The Jaguars are Monday night too. So yeah, Monday night definitely counts. We felt good about that. Nobody felt good about the Eagles. But that's okay.
Well, one person did. Well,
I know. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, the point being is like, look, I think if the Raiders win this game, if the Raiders beat the Vikings at home, which they definitely can do, then we win this parlay. I would be stunned if any of those three heavy favorites were upset. Wouldn't you guys agree?
I would agree.
Yeah, we'll see if anything weird happens in Seattle, San Francisco. You get those rematch games for divisional, opponents where anything can happen. Geno was hurt in that first game. So I'm not saying that Seattle's going to win. I'm not saying I would even bet them on the plus whatever it is, 10 and a half.
But they might keep it close, right?
But it could be a weird game, a little bit lower scoring than you expect, and then anything can happen late.
All right, this Pick Six Parlay segment has been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Brinson, I want to say real quick, because there was a question in the chat. Moneyline means outright winner, not against the spread.
Yeah, did I say against the spread?
No. Someone asked in the chat what moneyline meant, so I just.
Sorry, yeah. Moneyline means moneyline just means like, because so basically the way the lexicon works is there's a line with it's the spread has the normal is usually, I mean, now it's different with all the books, but it's minus 110, so you're just paying the standard juice, the VIG of like 10 cents for each bet. For each dollar, but the money line, there's an actual price, the money price assigned to the favorite and to the underdog. Sometimes both teams are minus money, and that's the money line is just straight up. Don't have to cover anything, just straight up.
Yes, and the reason why we're betting these very, very heavy money line people is because we're putting them in a parlay, so we can kind of get down on some of that juice, especially if we add a dog into it. All right, moving on.
I mean, 3-1 for 4 teams, and like 3 of them are like 7+ point favorites.
This week is a winner, people. Lock it in. The Pick Six parlay. Okay, so moving on for more games. Looking at the Lions laying.
All aboard.
What?
All aboard.
All aboard. Edith, stop yelling at me. All right, Detroit Lions laying 3 at the Chicago Bears. This total 43.5. Only I have a best bet on this game, and I'm looking at you, Jared Goff, to throw over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Goff and the Lions have kind of struggled with ball control over the last few weeks. I believe they've had like 6 turnovers in the last 3 games, but he still has thrown at least 2 touchdown passes in 4 straight games. The Bears' pass defense has been kind of hit or miss. Obviously, they looked really good last week, but they're up against a good quarterback and some good pass catchers. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got Sam Laporta coming off of a big week himself. And overall, Chicago ranks 30th in passing touchdowns allowed. So I do think that Jared Goff gets 2. It's at minus 111. RJ, any thoughts on this matchup?
Another total that's probably going to rise up now that we know the weather is not going to be as bad in the Midwest. So if you like it, get the over now because these two teams should play a little more high scoring game, you would think. Detroit's defense just 21st in yards per play, 30th in red zone rate, or even the bad Saints red zone offense went 4 for 4 last week with their injury issues. So I think the Bears can score some points here. Obviously, we know the Lions can score some points, but the Chicago defense also improving with better health, ranks 2nd in yards per rush and improving against the pass too. If this was a bad weather game, I would look to fade Goff, obviously outdoors. I think if you can get the 3.5, it's smart to get that. And it might still rise up to 3.5 because I think this line should probably be around the 2 range. I got it on look ahead here at the book down here in Florida at 5.5. So I'm hoping for that number. Obviously going to lock in a good number there, but I think the line should be under 3 at this
point. They legalized betting again in Florida?
We do.
Huh.
But it's only through the
Hard Rock or whatever?
Through the one.
Through the tribe, right? The Seminole tribe. Yeah. But say,
Could you use it like Hard Rock Bet or whatever? I saw that app. Like somebody was like promoting that app.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't go too much into it because we're not everybody's gonna have access to it.
But I mean, I knew that they had like discussed adding it back in. I would point out just on this game, okay, look, can I be transparent about my pick here, RJ? Is that okay for my?
Please always be transparent.
My total pick. Well, no. So like, I put in a bet on the under for this game on Sportsline early in the week because I was checking out Chicago weather. And this game on like Monday was projecting for 30+ mile an hour winds. You get Jared Goff.
All right. I forgot you talked about this on Monday.
Yeah, we told it was on Monday. I was like, go ahead. I said that the total was going to drop. Oh no, maybe I ended up going with something else, but I thought this total was going to drop.
We talked about, I forgot.
Yeah. Well, so, and this is just one, I think this is one of the important things when you start thinking about weather and how you're going to bet games and whether you're going to bet a total or not. So on Monday, it's tough to know exactly what the weather is going to be on Sunday. Like even like the most staunch, like meteorologist / sharpest sports gamblers are not going to know weather is going to move around. So for instance, now the reason I bring this up is it's important to keep an eye on this because weather now on Saturday is projecting Friday is heavy wind, like 17, 18 miles an hour in the morning, 15 gets down to 10 at night. And then Saturday in the morning, 17 miles an hour, 22 mile an hour, 19 mile an hour, all over the place. Chicago stuff, right? Tons of rain. Saturday's going to have tons of rain and tons of wind. And then Sunday is looking like it's going to be really cold. It's one of those classic cold fronts, right? It comes through, it's going to drop it down high at 36. It'll be cold, but it's not going to be super windy. Now, if for some reason that shifts and that weather goes back to being Sunday, look towards the under. But I think RJ's right. I think we see the total move up. I would want to back the Bears here. I think Lions defense cratering recently. Justin Fields is going to use his legs a bunch. They've used him smartly in that game plan. Jared Goff in cold weather, I don't know if there's necessarily something to that anymore as much as there was before, but I do think Jared Goff outdoors in really cold weather, I'd be interested in it. And I have the under here, so I'm not going to play the over, but I think if you like the over, you should take it now because it is probably going to go up. And we could see, if the weather is not bad with the wind, an explosive Detroit passing game. Sam Laporta, Goff, Amon St. Brown, and then the Bears coming back. Like, it's a pretty good look in DFS as well. Texans -3.5 at the New York Jets, a total of 33.5. Need to look. I know
Zach Wilson playing again, right?
Yeah, that's right. Man, just wild, like how he was considering not playing. I sort of understand it from some perspective. The total 33.5. If you're wondering why.
You see, Aaron Rodgers came out and kind of trashed the organization, saying that they're leaking things about Zach Wilson.
It's a bad look, especially because it was leaked about Aaron Rodgers too, that he told Zach Wilson to play. But yeah, like that's a problematic thing as an organization as a whole. If that's getting leaked out there, it is looking like this game's at 1:00, right? I believe, looking like 16 to 23 mile per hour wind the entire time. 65% chance of rain, lots of humidity. It's gonna be like in the 60s and rainy and windy.
Really?
Yeah, not great weather for anyone involved. I would lean towards taking the points with the Jets just because I think it's a sloppy, close game and you're getting 3.5 points at home. Houston clearly the better team. Maybe comes out with a win, but I think the under and the Jets are probably where I would be looking right now with this weather, RJ.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Houston's offense gave up 5 sacks with Titus Howard sideline and lost Tank Dell. So I don't know how great their offense is going to be, especially in poor conditions because they're more geared toward throwing the ball than running the ball, as we know. Jets defense can limit scoring if they show up. They've had some trouble with that because they're just hopeless on offense. So you could see them, kind of fade in the second half of games when it's just not it. It's interesting this line moved 2 points with Zach Wilson when 3 weeks ago we were all like, get Zach Wilson out of there. He should never play professional football again. And now he's out here to save the Jets and moving the line 2 points. I thought that was interesting. Houston's defense was excellent last week, generating 3 picks against the Broncos offense that had the best interception rate in the league. They were also 0 for 11 on third down. So Houston's defense actually stepping up pretty impressively, and the Jets offense, as we know, and has no hope wherever the quarterback is. I think the only way to look at this game, even with the low total, is to go under or even just the Jets under. I just can't back either team on the spread at this number. But if I'm playing the game, it's probably going to be Jets under, but I would consider the full game under too.
I'm curious what Nico Collins looks like in this football game. He's
Yeah.
going to be serving as the number one wide receiver for this Houston passing attack, which has obviously been incredibly impressive behind CJ Stroud. But Tank Dell suffering the broken fibula and the season-ending injury is going to thrust Collins into that number one role. Now he's facing a Jets pass defense, which is the strength of their football team. Absolutely elite when it comes to defending the perimeter as well. They've been very good against outside boundary wide receivers. So this is a matchup I'm going to be paying very close attention to. Nico Collins' receiving yards are 70.5 here. I think there might be some value there, potentially fading him.
Yeah, the Jets not only do they allow the fewest amount of receiving yards to receivers, it's like by 300 yards. It's like not even close. They're so good.
Wow.
Receivers barely get 100 yards per game on them. It's something like 103. So I was looking at that too. I was going to put that in as a best bet for this podcast at 79.5. But when I thought it was 79.5 on FanDuel, either it moved or I misread it because it said 73 when I went back to look at it. And as you say, it's 70 now. So I think it's just dropping. I wanted to get it at that much better number, thinking that the Jets were going to do a pretty good job eliminating him. Didn't want to really play it at the 70 number.
Wow.
So you think 70.5 still has value?
I would definitely lean under on it. I agree with RJ just having missed if it opened close to 80. But yeah, I think 70.5 still has some value there.
Nice. All right.
I'd make the true line at like 63.5.
Let's pass it.
All right, moving on. NFC West showdown, Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. Niners laying 10.5. This was like 12.5 at one point. It's already been bet down 2 points total, still 46.5. Katie's taking the Niners team total over again. Everybody take a drink. I renamed it on Sportsline. I was like, you might as well call this the mock special. Look, 9-3 this season, 49ers over their team total. They're averaging just over 30 points per game at home. They've scored more than this number, 28.5 in 3 of their last 4. During their 4-game winning streak, they've scored on 52% of their drives. On the other side, Seattle has allowed opponents to score on 48% of their drives over the last 10 games, which is best for the second worst actually in the NFL. So the line feels a little bit of trappy. I'm a 49ers fan. I'm not going to lay this over 10.5 points with them, but I do have a hard time thinking that the Seahawks are going to be able to stop them from scoring 30 since they've done it so handedly all season long.
I mean, 9-3. I mean, like we joke about it because you literally give it out every week. But if you're giving out something that's 9-3 on the season, I don't know why you like. I promise you this: if this were the Panthers were the 49ers, not that I don't like the Panthers way, but you get the point. Like if I was giving out something every week that was 9-3, I'd keep giving it out too.
I keep betting it. This is what I truly love to bet every single week. Is like you said, 9-3. So hopefully,
what a life you lead, where you can double down on your emotional investment in a football game instead of doing what I usually do, which is hedge by betting on the other team when NC State plays. Because that way, at least when my emotions are rocked to their core, I don't have to like lose money too. Pathetic.
Yeah, the Seattle gave up 30 plus points in the last 5 too, and San Francisco won 134-49 in 4 games since the bye, despite 3 of them being on the road against potential playoff teams. So I mean, it's hard to take Seattle when you look at those numbers. It's hard to take the under when you look at that because you know how many points San Francisco can score. So I get that. Just with that rematch of a divisional game, it could get a little weird. Wanted to put the over in as a best bet, but I'm going to just lay off with that divisional angle.
Yeah, I can understand why people are laying off, but I feel like, it's my duty to give that bet out every single day, or every single week, on the show. All right, moving on. Minnesota Vikings laying a field goal at the Las Vegas Raiders. This total 40.5. RJ, you're looking at the Aiden O'Connells.
Love the Raiders in this spot, and I'm surprised it might even get to 3.5. I'd be shocked if that happens. In the last game before the bye, Vegas put up 6.2 yards per play against an elite Chiefs defense. Ultimately could not stop Mahomes in the long run. This Vikings offense is not like the Chiefs offense, does not have a Mahomes at quarterback, has a guy that's been turning it over a bunch at quarterback, and Minnesota really struggling with turnovers before the bye. Even with Justin Jefferson back, I mean, he has not played in a game environment with Josh Dobbs. I don't expect him to just roll in here and throw up 150 yards out of nowhere. And Aiden O'Connell, we talk about, he's faced some tough defenses since taking over at quarterback. Hasn't been awful. You give him 2 weeks to prepare. I think they can come out with a game plan here to have some success against the Vikings defense I've been banging the drum for all year. I think they're very good, very solid. This line is just way too high. Minnesota laid 4.5 in Carolina, and they laid 3 in Chicago with Kirk Cousins, and they only covered both of those games with defensive scores. Taking this team on the road when Kirk Cousins is not the quarterback, laying 3 against a Raiders team that the power ratings for the market must have this team in the tank with the Panthers, and that's not the team that I've seen come out here and compete with the interim coach. I think that 3 is way too high for this game. I would make it close to pick, which is why it was in the parlay for me, and +3 is the best bet for me easily.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would lean towards the Raiders as well. You're talking about a home dog in a stadium where the Vikings probably haven't played. It's loud in there. The Raiders fans have been enthusiastic. Antonio Pierce, the Raiders aren't going anywhere, but Antonio Pierce is definitely fighting. Antonio Pierce has a legitimate shot to get this full-time job. And I think right now, unless there's some Jim Harbaugh situation, and reportedly he's in negotiations with Michigan to have a contract extension that would prevent him from talking with NFL teams this offseason.
Ooh.
Like that's apparently the hang up, according to Sports Illustrated. I think Richard Johnson of Sports Illustrated reported that earlier this afternoon. Like, I mean, Mark Davis can spend money much more freely than he could in the past, but if Antonio Pierce is awesome and like embodies the Raiders culture and wins some games down the stretch, I think you will see him give him the job, because he definitely thinks he screwed up by not giving to Rich Bisaglia and then like firing him and then going with Josh McDaniels. Now, if he gets a big shiny like thing, like interesting toy, like maybe he goes after it, but you get Antonio Pierce for cheap. He is a good coach. He was set to be Arizona State's head coach before a bunch of stuff went down at the NCAA there. He's been motivational, and he's also, as Leger Duzable pointed out on the podcast, the smartest teammate he ever had. So, like, I think this is a legitimate case of Antonio Pierce can win this job, and you got a winnable game against the Vikings. This team ain't gonna lay down. I like the Raiders as well. All right, we're gonna take a break.
Propstarz kitty
When we come back,
popping up.
the Sunday slate, a kitty cat. But first, Sunday, it's an NFL and CBS double header. Early games feature key matchups between the Jaguars and Browns and the Colts facing the Bengals. Later, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the game square off when Josh Allen leads the Bills against Mahomes and the Chiefs. It all begins at noon Eastern with the NFL Today. We can't wait for the NFL on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. Broncos and Chargers. Who wins? Coming up next.
Right back here on the Pick Six podcast. You can hear Edith, please. My dog is having a hard time today. All right, Broncos and the Chargers. Chargers laying 2.5. This total 43.5. And Brinson, you're supposed to set this one up. Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah. Chargers laying 2.5. You have a best bet. You're enthusiastic, and your dog's barking at you. There's cats and dogs. There's multiple animals.
Yeah.
On this podcast right now.
It is an animal party.
Maybe more, but I got my door to the studio closed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where's George? Where's George to this party?
George,
RJ, do you have any pets?
I do not. I thought Edith was reacting to Propstarz not having his 49ers jersey. What about the plot twist that would have happened if Alex's cat jumped up and it was wearing a 49ers jersey? It would have been
that would have been
amazing.
Like, how do you
Love
let
CTV?
Yeah. By the way, get the cat a jersey as well. We're gonna just
How much are cat jerseys more expensive than human jerseys? They have to be, right?
No, they're like $15, $20.
They have cat jerseys?
Well, they're like dog and cat jersey. I mean, Edie's got a 49ers cheerleader outfit and a jersey, and they're like, I don't know, $15, $20.
I mean, I sort of detest the idea of jamming dogs in costumes, because they just always look cats. They just always look miserable whenever they do it. Don't get me wrong.
That's actually a great point, Brinson. As far as cats are concerned, restricting their movement is supposed to be very bad for them, especially if they're like their whiskers are involved. So dressing cats is like a total no-no as far as like, cat activists are concerned.
But crazy cat ladies. Or crazy cat men, crazy cat people. Sorry, I don't want to be.
Well, my brother, we're going to have to move on really quick because I feel like Carrie's going to be like, come on, time. But
we were doing good on time.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, but my brother has a cat, and
you can derail it though in a heartbeat.
He used to dress his cat in a San Jose. This is a long time ago when the San Jose Sharks were actually a good team. In a San Jose Sharks jersey, it was an indoor-outdoor cat. So the cat would be cruising around downtown San Jose, and it's like Shark jersey and exciting people up. So I don't know.
Wait. The cat lived in a city and ran around downtown.
Yeah, this was an indoor-outdoor cat. Yeah, that lived in a city. It's still alive to this day, like 10 years later. And
You
so,
would-
Still
you
rocking
put
the
like a-
jersey?
You put like a
Game
Sharks
day.
jersey, and the cat would just be running around.
yeah, you imagine on like a game day, you see a cat cruising around downtown
Yeah,
San
That's
Jose.
amazing.
How much beer did that cat consume from fans
A
that see
lot.
him walking out? And
I don't know. It's
got to give this tip one out for this cat.
Yeah, I'm sure people.
Somebody says that they could see me owning a turtle. Um,
A turtle, like a huge tortoise or like a small turtle.
I've had a cat before, but that's because my brother was like, I don't want a puppy, I want a kitty, and I ended up having to like take the cat. Long story. I had one cat my entire life. I'm a dog guy though, but right now, George the dog, wonky-eyed prince of Baloo Court, George the wonky-eyed spaniel. So, but I prefer the big dogs. Anyway, speaking of big dogs,
Yeah. Oh.
speaking of little dogs, the Broncos are small dogs in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
And man, I kind of love the Broncos in this spot. I'm not sure why I don't have this as a best bet. I'm not sure what I was thinking. This is a Broncos home game. The Chargers are not going to be. They're not going to be fans here. The Chargers stink. Chargers fans hate this team. Brandon Staley stinks. He just talked about he's going to bench. He's like, my bench Austin Eckler. And I wouldn't be surprised if we came to find out that they don't want to pay Austin Eckler his incentives, and that's why they're benching him, because he's close to getting his touchdown numbers, and they don't want to pay him when he's averaging low yardage totals. Propstarz, you tend to agree?
I completely agree, Brinson. I think the wrong team is favored here. If you remember our Monday podcast, the look ahead segment, I thought the Broncos should be favored in this game. I'm not sure why they're not. This Chargers team is completely cratering. I have a lot more confidence in what I've seen from the Broncos. Broncos offense has been a complete mess. They're completely unable to run the ball. You had Brandon Staley come out and say that there's going to be a lot more competition for carries. Eckler's averaging 3.5 yards per carry, and he's making a very minimal impact in the passing game, where last year he was second in the NFL in receptions. So he does not look anywhere close to 100%, lacking his usual burst and lateral quickness there. So something is seriously wrong as far as Eckler is concerned, and this whole Chargers offense as a whole just really hasn't been able to recover since losing Mike Williams and Joshua Palmer. So a lot more confidence in this very balanced Broncos team who's been effective both running the ball, throwing the ball, and then defensively they've made huge strides since early in the season where they were absolutely awful. They've been pretty respectable over the last 5 to 6 weeks.
I know you guys have best bets on this, and I know I'm going to end up pushing it up against the time limit. I don't care because my dad's team that I was shepherding while they were going out of town made the playoffs, number 3 seed. Got a big matchup. Good job, Bob. Way to go, me. Yeah, we're not there yet. We want the championship. We will take down this is his work league, right? Like if he wins, they're all he's gonna peacock. Yeah, it's a law firm league. He's gonna peacock up and down the hall at the firm, and they'll be like, "Will did you?" It'll be awesome. So we want him to win. He has Eckler on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Achane. We added him on waivers. Not bad by me. Good job. Good job by me. So we got Achane there. And in the flex currently, Alexander Madison and Aaron Jones on the bench. Also, Puka Nacua might come in. Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle at wide receiver. So what I'm wondering is it worth benching Austin Eckler given what we heard from Brandon Staley and playing Madison and then putting Puka Nacua in at flex?
Is it a PPR league?
It is a PPR league.
I think the upside with Eckler is honestly too high
to take him
bench.
out.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, RJ, same thing.
100% same side. I was going to ask the same question and give you the same advice.
Yep.
In this game, you guys talk about how the Chargers are creating. I will remind you that they won and covered last week. It was 6-0 against an awful Patriots offense in bad weather. And even with that performance, they ranked 28th in yards per play on defense still. And facing a solid offense, do not trust them at all, especially with Joey Bosa hurt. Denver's offense had a rare turnover issue against Houston. They're still 17th in yards per play, 17 plus points in all but one game since week 1. I believe that they are going to score points here against this defense. And the Denver defense kept the team in the game versus Houston. Everything was going wrong for them. -3 turnover margin. Offense was struggling. And the defense, only 2 of 12 drives were over 40 yards for Houston against a very explosive Houston offense. So good things about Denver's defense there. We'll have to monitor the Surtain injury. He picked up an injury in that game. We'll see how he practices. If he plays, I think he's going to do a pretty good job limiting a banged up Keenan Allen You talked about the struggling Eckler. I don't know how this offense picks up a lot of points. And the Chargers wins this season. It was a coin flip game against Minnesota early on, and then they beat Aiden O'Connell in his first start, Tyson Bagent, Zach Wilson, and Bailey Zappi. So when you're facing a solid quarterback like Russell Wilson, who's having a really good season this year, good luck for that defense. I like the pick that Katie's going to give out here, but at the number of 2.5 just made too much sense to pair it with Baltimore in my teaser, teasing Denver up to plus 8.5 with Baltimore minus 1.5.
Love it. I'm laying the 2, or no, I'm taking the 2.5 with the Broncos. Like everyone has said so far, the wrong team is favored here. The Chargers offense is just so one-dimensional right now. It's not hard to figure out. All they do is throw the ball to Keenan Allen. And like you said, RJ, he's a little bit banged up right now. And this Broncos secondary and just defense as a whole started terrible. Now all of a sudden they're looking elite. We'll have to monitor that injury with Patrick Surtain. But I don't think he'll have too much of a hard time if he is a go guarding Keenan Allen. And you look at this team like the Chargers, they just turn the ball over at really an alarming rate. And much of the success that Denver had during their 5-game winning streak was winning the turnover battle and really getting lucky on there. So I just don't see, yes, they technically won and covered last week, but 6-0 versus the Patriots, isn't exactly something to write home again. So I don't know, maybe, take the 2.5. Just take the 2.5 at this point. But I do really like that teaser. All right. Probably the best game of the weekend that everyone's looking forward to. Buffalo Bills at Kansas City. Everybody remembers.
What channel is it on?
It's on CBS Sports. Is this the A-team? Is this the Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, Casey Wilson? Yeah.
This is they don't announce it till like 2 weeks before, but this is A-team lock when the schedule was released in April.
Yeah. Everybody remembers the AFC conference championship game, the what was it, overtime, and then the rules were changed every time these two teams. Yep. 13 seconds. Yep, exactly. All right. Chiefs laying 1.5. This total 48.5. We've got some opposing bets here. I'll go to you first, Brinson. You like the Bills.
I'm going to take the Bills. And this is kind of one of those where I take the Bills and then I see RJ on the Chiefs and I think to myself, damn it. But both of these teams are desperate in different ways. The Chiefs are 8-4. The number 1 seed, which they've had the last few years, and that's why
like 12 years in a row or something crazy, right? Or 8 years in a row? How many years?
It's not 8. I think it's like 4, right? They've had it every year since Mahomes took over. So I guess it is like 6.
Maybe they just made the 8 years
the
in a row.
Titans
had it 1 year. That's right. They had to go to. They have to. But did they play the Titans in the championship game or the divisional? Was it the championship?
I don't know. I think Tennessee lost their first round game. The first time they played, not first round, obviously. But I don't think the Titans made the conference championship that year. Yeah,
that was the year that the Chiefs got down to Deshaun Watson early big, came back against him. They got down to the Titans and came back against him big. Point being is the Chiefs, just like with the Patriots in the Belichick Tom Brady run, getting the number 1 seed means you play one less playoff game. And it gives you home field advantage throughout the playoffs. It's massive. And the Chiefs really want that. They're desperate to get it. The Bills are even more desperate, though. They are 6-6. If they lose this game, adios, amigo playoffs, and possibly adios, Sean McDermott. Tyler Dunn had a big article blaming Sean McDermott for the Bills playoff window closing, the Super Bowl window closing, and his failure to utilize Josh Allen properly, and is blaming it on everybody else. 3-part piece on golongtd.com. I highly suggest you check it out. Good article. And like Sean McDermott's job is in the balance. I mean, Terry Pagula is not exactly afraid to fire somebody. So this is a huge game for the Bills. They're coming off their bye. I think they come out and play a really inspired game, and Josh Allen steps up in a massive way. We get a huge Stephon Diggs game, and the Bills find a way to win this one. Take the money line, take the plus 1.5. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be an awesome game. I would be shocked if either of these teams blew either one of them out. They're going to be able to come back. The Bills don't have – I think the Bills will use the bye to get a little healthier on defense, sort of readjust things. I like Buffalo to win it, but, I think it's going to be a really close game. RJ, you're on the other side.
Hence the close line.
Yes. Yeah, the pros were on the Bills early in the week at 2.5. That's why it dropped down to 1.5. I think they're reacting to Buffalo's defense getting healthier. But obviously they still don't have Trey White, Matt Milano, Daquan Jones, still missing several key pieces to that defense. And the Chiefs defense, has been shaky in their last two, but they did hold Miami and Philly under 300 yards at home in 2 games prior. This is a spot where I think they can show up. They are dealing with injury issues themselves at linebacker. We'll see if Nick Bolton can return for this game. If not, Drew Tranquil is also banged up. So if they're missing both guys in the middle, I'm a little bit more worried about taking Kansas City -1.5, but I think one of them will play. Buffalo, ran the ball 78 times in the last 2 games before the bye. They're going to want to come out and run the ball here. So having those linebackers will be key. I just don't trust the Buffalo defense to get consistent pressure in Kansas City. And Mahomes, I think, can pick apart this secondary, especially with Rashee Rice really emerging as a number 1 receiver to complement Pacheco and Kelsey in that offense. Ultimately, it just comes down to, I feel the Chiefs are a tier above the Bills, and the Chiefs get a point and a half for home field at least. So I don't think these teams are even. I think the Chiefs should be probably laying 3 points here. So I made Chiefs -1.5 a best bet.
And the Chiefs have made the playoffs, I think, 8 years in a row. That's the number I was thinking of.
And RJ mentioned how much Buffalo has been running the football, especially since Joe Brady has taken over the offensive play calling. James Cook, I love him in this spot. Over 44.5 rushing yards. In my opinion, this number should have been 54.5. Buffalo's been one of the more balanced football teams since Brady has taken over play calling. As I mentioned, Cook has had 17 carries and 16 carries as well. So he's been the focal point really of Buffalo's offense, and this Chiefs defense 31st heading into last week. They were 31st in EPA allowed per rush, 32nd in win stop run rate. So they are very vulnerable up the middle, and I believe that'll be the focal point of Buffalo's game plan. And we'll see a heavy dose of James Cook, who's had 3 consecutive weeks of 100 combined scrimmage yards and has really been one of the best offensive players in Buffalo.
All right. We've got a massive game on Sunday night. The Eagles at the Cowboys. The Cowboys are back involved in the divisional race to a degree. Still got an uphill battle to fight here with Philadelphia. But with Philly losing to San Francisco at home, defense has been exposed a bit for Philly. Hadn't been great lately. Cowboys are playing some awesome football. Dak Prescott, you want to talk about an MVP slingshot opportunity. If he lights up this Eagles defense, Dak's already the top option, I think, in a lot at FanDuel for MVP. He would be probably get under 2-1 to win MVP if he can win this game. Although usually you have to be the 1 or 2 seed. I think with the Cowboys and all that comes with that, and Dak's sort of the way that it's been talked about and how awesome Dak has been, wouldn't be surprising if they got this. Eagles much more banged up than the Cowboys right now. Cowboys getting healthier at the right time. Mike McCarthy, their biggest injury, and he's going to be on the sidelines, had an emergency appendix injury or surgery. I'm on the Cowboys here. Cowboys -3.5. It's a big line. As usual with this show, I bet my best bet, and I look at RJ's bet for the same game, and I'm like, damn it, that's a better pick. But I'm going to take the Cowboys -3.5. I think
even money.
At even money, yeah. I think the Cowboys get it done. I think they come out slinging it. And Philadelphia, with a banged up Jalen Hurts, struggles. I think they'll keep up. I think there's a ton of points scored in this game. Would not be surprised if we see the overhit. But I like the Cowboys to win this game. They are undefeated on the season, 6-0, I think, at home, with a plus 153 point differential in those 6 games. That is ridiculous. They are awesome at home, and they are out for revenge against the Eagles, who they should have beaten the first time.
Couldn't agree with you more, Brinson. I am on the same one here. Look, the Eagles got the break speed off of them.
Eagles die on the road to treachery.
You said it, not me. You said it, not me. And look, if we think back to like that was anybody who watched that game, that was an incredibly physical, chippy game, like a emotionally heightened game for both teams. I just think that the Eagles are tired here. They're pretty banged up. And even last year, if you looked at, San Francisco's particular brand of defense made it so that teams the following week ended up losing the very next week. I just think it's a really bad spot for Philly this week. And like you said, Dallas is just playing too good at home. They average 41 points per game at Cowboy Stadium versus just 23 away. Obviously, Philadelphia got the best of them in that matchup, but that was in Philadelphia. So I think we might see a big, not a shakeup, but an even out, if you will, of the NFC after this weekend. And there's one team that's got a tiebreaker.
Yeah, that's why I have Dallas over 27.5 points. I think the Eagles can be competitive in this game, but Dallas is just at home, just scoring points left and right. I think it's 40 in each of their last 4 games. Dallas does have the better defense in this game, ranking 4th in yards per play to Philly's 24th. They also have the better offense, 7th versus 13th in that metric Philly's offense ranks 21st in sack rate, 22nd in interception rate, while Dallas's defense thrives on getting pressure and generating turnovers, and they can score themselves, as we have seen. The Eagles' defense is having trouble getting off the field on third down, ranking 32nd in success rate, while Dallas's offense is second. So I expect the Philly defense that got worn out in that Buffalo game. It was an overtime game where they had to be on the field for 90-plus plays. Then the next week, they had to come back and play the San Francisco offense that can beat you every which way. I don't know how they're going to catch their breath for this game here. And I just think the Cowboys are going to score points. I'm not going to take the 3.5. At 3, I like the Cowboys. So I wanted to make an argument for the Eagles catching the hook. I couldn't do it. I think Dallas has to have this win to stay in the division race, obviously, and they're just going to score a bunch of points. I love getting the over at 27.5 if you have that available.
Never thought we'd become a Cowboys podcast, and here we are. Sorry, Propstarz.
Oh, God.
2 Monday Night Football games. We're going to breeze through these bad boys real quick. The Titans at the Dolphins. Dolphins minus 13.5. Over under a 46.5. Man, these are awesome. A good 4 games too, because they're a good 2 games just because of like the fantasy implications. This is a big playoff week for fantasy, and then the other one, the Packers minus 6.5. At the Giants. The Packers getting some juice there, a total of 36.5 up to 37. I think I would lean towards laying the points with both of these teams. The Giants, the Packers playing much better defense. Jordan Love playing great football. Can see him slinging the ball all over this Giants defense, assuming the weather isn't bad. And then I don't see how Tennessee remotely slows down Tyreek Hill in this and Tua Tagovailoa in this spot. And it's like, Will Levis is going to have to drop back 40 times, RJ, in order for the Titans to try and cover. And you need like some kind of backdoor business from DeAndre Hopkins. So don't hate the idea. I guess you wouldn't tease the 2 teams. That would use 7.5. But I think I like both favorites in the spot, I believe.
It's interesting that the market is coming down on the Dolphins line a little bit. We see some 13s. I think 12.5s might be available too, at least down here in Florida. It's interesting with Tennessee's defense losing Jeffrey Simmons to an injury. I don't know how they can stop him rushing or passing at that point. So I think it feels like Miami can do whatever it wants, and Titans will have to score to keep up, which they're 30th on third down and in the red zone. So I don't know if they're equipped to go blow for blow. So I would lean to the Dolphins there too. In that other game, I'm a little bit worried that we're inflating the Packers rating at this point. Obviously, they're on a great run. No turnovers last 3 games. Jordan Love looks like the real deal. The next Aaron Rodgers, the next Brett Favre, next in the line of succession there. Seems like this number is getting a little bit too high here. It might get to 7 in some spots. At 7, I think you want to look to the Giants, as ugly as they look.
All right, that's going to do it for our show. Harry, throw up. There it is. The betting recap. Brinson, walk us through your bets.
I got the Ravens minus 7. I just got an alert from the CBS Sports app. If you don't have that, what are you thinking? Download the CBS Sports app. You get alerts for all your favorite teams and all your favorite sports. That Lamar Jackson was not at practice. Obviously, if Lamar Jackson isn't playing in that game, I wouldn't want the Ravens, but I've made it my best bets. So here we are. The Panthers plus 5.5. The Colts minus 1.5. Cleveland minus 3. Buffalo plus 1.5. And Dallas minus 3.5. Katie, what about yours?
Love that. I'm looking at Jake Browning. Over 12.5 rush yards. Jared Goff over 1.5 pass touchdowns. San Francisco over their team total 28.5. Denver plus 2 and Dallas minus 3.5. RJ.
I have Kieran Williams over 17.5 receiving yards. I will note that the line in Baltimore has not dropped. It's still 7.5 across the board. So I think it's just an illness. I don't think people think he's actually injured. I still like my teaser of Baltimore minus 1.5 and Denver plus 8.5. Also have Zach Moss to score a touchdown anytime. You can either get plus 100 or minus 105, depending on the books you're looking at this point. Atlanta minus 1.5, Vegas plus 3, Kansas City minus 1.5, and Dallas team total over 27.5 points.
And I've got Kieran Williams under 68.5 rushing yards. Chuba Hubbard over 12.5 rushing attempts. Zach Moss over 68.5 rushing yards. And last but not least, James Cook over 44.5 rushing yards. And fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. 3 of the biggest Eagles haters I've ever heard I am teamed up with here as my colleagues. So we'll see what happens this weekend, guys.
We absolutely will. That is the show. Make sure you join us all week long. And specifically this Sunday, the Super Friends are going to be recapping week 14 of the NFL season. So make sure you check us out there on YouTube. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on that YouTube page. If you're listening to the audio version, download, follow, leave a 5-star review, and tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. Good luck with your bets. Again, Super Friends, we'll see you Tuesday. Have a good weekend.